measurements and graphing and some small addition and subtraction in this lesson. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take some of our data, some of our statistics from the previous lesson with our budget, and we're going to put them into a graphic here and examine, dig a little deeper into some ways that we can view this idea of making a budget. All right, so if we read the problem here, the circle below represents a person's monthly income, which is $2,500. From the total, there are following expenses. Rent is $1,250 a month, and that includes utilities. Food is $500 a month. Transportation, $100. Clothing comes to $100, and other extra expenses is $250. So what are our instructions here? First, what we want to do here is what percentage does each item represent? Percentages are used to express how large one quantity is relative to the other quantity. And what we're trying to determine here is how big each of these amounts is compared to our total income. So you can see right here that the first one, rent, is done for you. So in the previous instructions here, it tells us that our rent and utilities came to $2,500. Excuse me, our income came to $2,500 a month. Our rent and utilities was $1,250. So for our work down here, we take $1,250 divided by 2,500, and we find out that rent and utilities comes out to be 50% of our total income. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for our food, okay, and the other amounts that they give us. So in the problem, it tells us that we spend $500 a month on food. So 500 divided by 2,500, which is our total income. And what that gives us is 0.20. Now remember, if we want to change that decimal to a percent, hopefully you recall that what we're going to do there is multiply by 100. And we find out that that is 20% of our income is spent on food. All right, and we go ahead and do transportation, which is $100 a month out of our $2,500 income. And that answer there comes to 0.04. You're just typing that into your calculator. Same process. We're going to times that by 100, okay, to figure out what percentage that is. And we get 4% of our total income is dedicated to transportation costs. Next is clothing, and clothing turns out to be the same as transportation since it's also $100 a month. So we won't, we'll skip over the work for that. Work smarter and harder. So 4%. And finally, we have our extra expenses, which they don't detail what those are, but we do know it's about $250 a month out of $2,500. And we type that in our calculator and we get 0.10, which comes out to be 10%. Okay, so once we have those percentages, all right, we're going to go back up here to our circle graph, and I'm just going to jot these down in my little my key here, so that way I know what they are. So my rent was 50%. Okay, my food was 20%. All right, my transportation was 4%. Clothing was 4%. Extra expenses was 10%. And then whatever's left over would be my savings. Okay, and we'll figure that out in the next problem. So first, though, I'm going to go ahead and start with my circle graph. And the easy one there is the rent, right? If that's 50% of how much I make, then that's going to be half my circle, right? So my rent, let's just say I'm going to shade that a certain color. Okay, so let's just say rent's going to be orange. So that means 50% of my circle, which is half. That's pretty easy to do, right? Is going to be shaded orange for rent. Okay, now obviously you can take as much time as you want to color that as pretty as you like, but I'm just giving you a rough idea here of what the process is. All right, and then I might even throw a label in there if I want to, but that's the whole point of the key, is that I don't have to necessarily label. All right, so then next I go to food, which is 20%. That's 1/5 of the whole circle. So once you get into geometry and you realize there's 360 degrees in a circle, okay, we could take that number and multiply it by 20%, to figure out how many actual degrees, okay, this would be. All right. And we end up getting 72 degrees. So that's not quite 90, we're going to estimate here. We're going to say that's 72 degrees. That's probably more like 80. So we'll say that this is 72 degrees. All right. And that's my food expenses. All right. So I'll do food a different color. See the hot pink for food. All right, and that's going to be this one right here, about 20% of my circle, 1/5. Okay. And next I'm going to go transportation clothing. They're both 4%, so they're just going to be little slivers. All right, in the big scheme here, that's probably actually a little too big. Let's see here. Oops. And of course, you know, you would be using a ruler. Perfect world. We're in class. Everybody has rulers. I did 2 of those there because food and transportation and clothing end up being the same amount. So that means their piece of the pie should be the same. So let's just say green is transportation. But then let's give royal blue here. We'll make that one clothing. And last, I have extra expenses, which is 10%. So that's going to be a little bit bigger than those 2 combined. Okay, so let's say that's my extra expenses. I'll give that one its own color. All right, let's see here. What didn't we use yet? How about purple? So if I give that one its own color, purple. All right, and then all I have left here is savings, right? So we can figure out how much we're going to save. So let's scroll down here to that part of the worksheet. How much does this person save each month? What is the percent? What is that percentage? So you can go about this one of 2 ways, right? You can add up all their expenditures. Okay, so what was that? $1,250. All right, and then we had 500, 100, 100, and 250. If I add all of those up, that gives me a total of $2,200. All right. And of the total income, which was $2,500, I subtract that number, and I get $300. So I need to know that number, $300. And then I can also figure out that percentage. So I take 300 divided by 2,500, just like I did for everything else, and I find out that I am saving 12% of my budget. So when I go back up here, that should be about 12%. Looks like it's a little big for 12%, but like I said, we didn't quite get as accurate as maybe we should have or could have on that. But then this would be my savings, 12%. Okay, let's scroll back down here and see what else we're asked to do. On the circle graph, shade in each expense according to the percentage. Use different colors.